Hello, everyone. I did not expect to be back because I kind of just wanted to throw up that Sekor video 2 years ago. But I was watching it and recently, and just for the sake of it, see how my deck has changed over the years. And I saw a pretty good reception to it in the comments, and like it didn't get a ton of views, but it got like a pretty decent amount. And I do appreciate that, and that's cool. I do enjoy the idea that there are a bunch of other Sequar enthusiasts out there. So I thought I would bring you another deck tech for one of my commander decks that sort of coincides with the recent news that the artist Ron Spears has passed away. And that is, of course, the gal in front of you, Phage the Untouchable. Phage is my favorite Magic card of all time. She is the card that I saw as a kid back in like 2005, where I was like, this game rocks. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. This thing hits you and you die. Like, that's awesome. So I decided to play this game for another 20 years and have built Phage in some form or fashion, whether it was casual 60 card or other commander decks. I did try to build Phage as a commander deck for the first time back in like 2018, but that iteration didn't quite stick the landing, so I took it apart and then I put her back together in like 2021 and I've had her ever since. So she's the deck that I kind of pull out for newer pods because it's a very straightforward game plan. I get Phage out and I hit you with her. That's it. There's no infinite combos or special whatever going on in here. It's all in the interest of getting Phage out. So Phage is a 7 mana 4/4, and when she comes into play, if you didn't play her from your hand, you lose the game. Your command zone is not your hand, of course, so people are very quick to point out, well, don't you know? Don't you know that she makes you lose if you play her? Yeah, I'm aware. We have some ways to get her out of there without losing the game. And of course, if she hits a player, that player loses the game, and of course, any creature she runs into dies as well. I did manage to get a signed copy a long time ago. Um, and I do have a artist proof on the way. Unaltered, unsigned, unfortunate, but still a nice little piece to have of my favorite card, and also just the sort of inquiry that I reached out to get that proof 2 years ago, and that really got me into a much more deeper and thorough appreciation for Magic's art by connecting with their artists and getting cards signed and whatever. I also have a band poster Phage and two altars I did. This is the first one I did not too long ago. I want to say this is about 5 or 6 years old. And then this more full art one that I did last year. That's enough about Phage. Put that one over here, hiding away. This deck feels very similar to a lot of the times it wins, obviously through Phage, but it wins kind of like in these crazy sort of Hail Mary plays that you like need to win this turn or you lose to your opponent just like on the crackback. It feels kind of like you're in a fighting game, like on Street Fighter or whatever, and you are on your last sliver of health and you're very close. You're just like one hit from losing, and then you manage to hit into this like perfect combo and just knock your opponent completely out of the game. It's kind of what this deck feels like sometimes, and it's pretty sweet, honestly, just kind of like going from 0 to 60. This deck has a lot of fans, I think. She's the highest rated EDH rec commander of mine, of the 5 that I have. I'm a very niche commander player. I don't really play commander too much these days, but obviously I have these pet projects. So there's definitely some Phage fanatics out there as well. Can't deny that. So hopefully y'all enjoy this deck tech as much as you enjoyed the Sequar one. So I have 21 of these swamps. Just shuffle through these nice little MPS promos. We'll hit a card that isn't a swamp here. There we go. I have all 4 fetch lands in black to grab those swamps. You have a couple utility lands. Holy, that's a bright light. Let's get you out of there. That can either help Phage get in there to hit the opponent, or just draw cards or whatever. So Minas Morgul is a very slow sort of rogue's passage, but it does make Phage permanently unblockable with the shadow counter, or at least more permanently unblockable than rogue's passage does. And the Black Gate, also from Lord of the Rings, lets you kind of hit the dethrone player, the player with the most life, which is never this deck. This deck is very quick to spend its life, and very rarely does it ever have more life than any other opponent. Because I don't care what their life total is, it's going to be 0 if I connect. Castle Lochthwain to draw some cards and lose some life. Plaza Heroes. The thing about Phage is that she costs a lot of mana and a lot of extra resources to get her out, so if you have a Plaza of Heroes on standby, it's very nice to have the ability to save her from a board wipe or removal. Lake of the Dead. I've gotten Phage out as early as like turn 3 or 4 with this card, and like in combination with rituals and stuff. Very potent card. Phage is just as susceptible to counterspells as any other creature, so we gotta get her through with Cavernous Souls, plus I get to name Minion as the creature type, which is pretty fun. I got a Bajuka Bog for those graveyard decks. Always nice to have on hand. Command Beacon, of course, is probably the easiest way to get Phage into your hand from the command zone. And you can rebuy it from the graveyard with Crucible Worlds. Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. There's a lot of black pips in mono blacks in particular, so having some devotion-based mana is really nice. And of course we have Urborg and Cabal Coffers for tons of black mana. We do have some acceleration here in the form of artifacts and rituals. This is kind of an artifact deck by chance. It has probably, I think it has more artifacts than any other non-land type. So Jet Medallion and Bantu's Monument for reducing black spells. Sword of the Animist for some early game hits and getting some basics off of it. Soul Ring, of course. Throne of Eldraine is a very superpowered monocolor mana rock. If you don't know what it does, because it's got a big signature on it and it came in a very esoteric. I think it was only available in collector packs of Wilds of Eldraine. Back when they were doing that weird sort of like, here's some extra commander cards that weren't in the actual decks. But when there's a battlefield, you choose a color. You can tap to add 4 mana of that color, only to cast monocolored spells of that color. And then you can pay 3 and tap it to draw 2 cards, only using the chosen color of mana to do so. So it kind of takes care of the, 4 black pips there, among other things. Mox Opal, got a bunch of artifacts, so that's some more fast mana. Arcane Signet. Nyx Lotus, much like Nykthos, helps get a bunch of mana. And Mana Vault. Crucible Worlds to buy back Command Beacon, but also the fetch lands to ensure that I hit my land drops every single turn. And paying life is nice or whatever. I like running Crucible Worlds plus like the fetch lands in any black, like mono black, mono red, mono white type deck. Just because it's a pretty efficient way to just always ensure that you hit your land drops. Got Dark Ritual and Sacrifice for some ritual fast mana there. Ritual mana. Crypt Gas, double up your swamps. And then the last one, Kairik, the son of Yawgmoth. This is kind of contributing to the notion that this deck feels like a quick, crazy fighting game combo because it lets you really cheat out a lot of spells at the cost of your life. And that feels pretty nice. Makes Phage cost 3 mana. And if you have like both Bontus and Jet Medallion out, then Phage costs 1 mana and 8 life. That's crazy. I got some removal because Phage doesn't come out very quickly most of the time, and other people's things do. So kind of need to make everyone chill. Cloud Kill is kind of a nice exclusive board wipe to this deck. All creatures get -X, where X is the mana value of your commander, the greatest mana value of your commander. So that's 7 in this case. You could run Toxic Deluge, but I kind of like the niche pick. Got a Damnation for a little cheaper option there, mana-wise. Decree of Pain, I usually just cycle this to wipe off an early board state, but I also have cast it for the full 8 mana before because it's not that hard to hit in a deck running all the big mana spells, or big mana producing spells. Braids is a kind of a pet card. I do kind of like just throwing away some fodder and making everyone choose to throw away their stuff or let me draw cards. Font of Agonies, a way to sort of get some extra value off of all the paying life effects, letting you destroy creatures. Feed the Swarm, specifically for enchantments. Sometimes I have to blow creatures up with this if I absolutely need to, but enchantments are kind of the premier thing to blow up with this. Infernal Grasp. Blowing up a creature for 2 mana is pretty solid at instant speed. You could make an argument that like maybe this should be some more use, like modular or like modal spell or something that does something more. This deck doesn't really last long enough to warrant needing to make those choices, so sometimes you just need to get the dang thing off the table. Withering Boon, a black counterspell, no one expects it, it's awesome. Counters creature spells. And in very certain desperate scenarios, if you're absolutely needing to get Phage out of the command zone, you can cast her and counter her with this and then go from there. That's not really recommended though, it's a pretty expensive and awful way to do it. I do have to run some tutors in here because Phage needs her methods of getting out, and I need to find them. So I do run 5 tutors in here. I know that goes against the spirit of the game or whatever, but I implore you to find a commander deck that isn't running at least 1 tutor. So we got Demonic, Vampiric. I got Beseech the Mirror for getting rid of a artifact I no longer need to get another one that I might need. As well as Beseech the Queen, one of my favorite tutor spells, just because it's like an interesting take on it. And I usually just cast it for 3 mana and grab a cheap option to get Phage out. And Grim Tutor. Now I just have sort of like a value package here of just things that I can do while I'm waiting to get the bus out of the barn. So Morbid Opportunist draws cards when things die. Defiler of Flesh. This could probably have been in the mana accelerant category, but it's nowhere near as potent as Karik. However, it's still a decent card because it does give a creature +1/+1 and menace whenever I cast a black permanent. So usually that's enough to get Phage into the face of the opponent. Gix Yawgmoth Praetor is a very fun early play. Lets everyone kind of hit each other for some extra value, so they're not really focusing on me, and then I get to also hit people for some extra value. I very rarely use his other ability because I don't really have a whole lot of cards in my hand. And usually I find whatever cards I would get off of an opponent aren't particularly useful either. Viscera Seer, just an early game way of getting a little bit of value. This deck doesn't generate a ton of fodder for it, but it does help like Phage or other creatures dodge exile removal. Much easier to get them out of the graveyard than exile, so I do utilize it for that. Read the Bones. I'm sure this has been outclassed in the past couple years, but I still appreciate just the simple 3 mana scry 2, draw 2. Got a Yawgmoth's Will for a quick little turn of buying some things back, usually some rituals or tutors or combo pieces, like if they blew up my Torpor Orb or whatever. It's the only real like big recursion spell. There's obviously like some a little bit of reanimation effects and stuff in here, but Yawgmoth's Will just helps get a little bit of a rebuild after someone blows up all artifacts or whatever. Necropotence is a heck of a magic card. Has a bunch of black pips for devotion. Lets you draw a bunch of cards. And is very potent with Bolas's Citadel, of course. Don't really need to sing this card's praise too much. Phyrexian Reclamation to buy back some of those things. Like if you have Phage in the graveyard, this is a great way to kind of skip the whole command zone dance. Or if another one of your creatures that you want back dies, then you can do that. Xenos, Yay Galvis, is a interesting card in here. I threw it in here the minute I got my hands on it, thinking about getting it in here as soon as it got spoiled. If you are not aware of Xenos, he enters and chooses a creature an opponent controls and then gives everybody else -2/-2. And then when the creature he chose dies, then Xenos flips over into a Solemn Simulacrum. No, he flips over into a Shinryu, Transcendent Rival, which then chooses an opponent, and when that opponent loses the game, you win the game. So the idea is that you are in a multiplayer game, you flip this guy and choose somebody and then hit them with Phage, and then you don't have to do the work of hitting everybody else. And I have yet to actually make that happen. I think I have yet to even flip this guy, like, at all. But I do like the idea of it, and I really just enjoy, as a mostly 60 card player, how redundant the Burning Chains text is. Like, of course you win the game if your opponent loses. Alright, good old-fashioned Solemn Simulacrum. I have a soft spot for this guy. He's not particularly, like, crazy still, but he plays into some minor synergies in this deck, and just, at the end of the day, ramps you and draws you a card on the way out after he blocks. Good old Gary Merchant of Asphodel. I would say this is maybe the other win con of the deck, if it happens to be. But usually it just buys me back a bunch of life that I have lost from, like, Necropotence and Kairik and, like, Bolus Citadel or whatever. And occasionally I do just have enough black mana pips on the board to knock out like a couple players after I reanimate him or whatever. Speak of the Devil, Bolus Citadel. Very crazy card, of course. It's a game changer. I don't have to sing its praise. It definitely contributes to a lot of the crazy, like, combo game fighting game combo turns that I was talking about. And it definitely is broken with Necropotence, of course. Yeah. If I don't know what I'm doing on the first tutor, I'll generally just find this card and then just kind of go from there. Also, it's another reason to run the fetches in Crucible, because you get to reshuffle the top card of your deck. Reanimate, just for a good old grab something for 1 mana. It can be your opponent's thing too. Sometimes it just helps you get back into the game. Dread Presence gives you a card draw and you lose a life, or you can zap something for 2 and gain 2 whenever a swamp enters. This card isn't particularly exciting these days, but I still appreciate the little bit of life gain and kind of picking things off, and occasionally I do get to draw cards. It don't really... It's at its best, of course, if you have Urborg and, like, the fetch land thing going on, because then you get 2 landfall triggers a turn, but at 1 trigger a turn, it's not particularly fast or exciting. But he'll be in here for a while. I don't really have a list of cards that are waiting to get in here. Dauthi Voidwalker. If you saw my Set Quar video, then you know I've already talked about how kind of insane this guy is as a just generically good Magic card. So nothing new there. Expedition map to grab one of the big mana producing lands like Cabal Coffers or Nykthos, or it just grabs Command Beacon and lets me get the ball rolling on casting Phage. Yawgmoth, there are some creatures in this deck. Well, there's one particularly big creature in this deck that wants to be in the graveyard, and Yawgmoth can facilitate that. Plus his whole family's in this deck. His son and his Praetor and his Will are in here, so why not just get Yawgmoth in here too. And Black Market Connections, just as a generically good ramp spell, plus extra card draw. I never really make the 3-2, I never full send this, just because it's kind of whatever. Like, the 3-2 doesn't do anything for me. Especially not for 3 life. Alright, and we got a couple equipment in here to kind of help Phage out. We got Shadow Spear for trample. And then randomly I can get rid of some, and the lifelink isn't nothing either. And then I can randomly strip off Hexproof and Indestructible. We got both shoes, Swiftfoot and Lightning Greaves, of course. Get that haste and that protection. There's the Filth, the card I was talking about that absolutely wants to be in the graveyard. As long as it's in the graveyard and I have a swamp, my creatures have swamp walk, so combos with Urborg to help get Phage in there. And very easy to kind of facilitate getting it in the graveyard with a couple discard effects and sacrifice effects. Doth the Embrace is an enchantment that lets you give a creature shadow until end of turn for 2 mana. It's another way of getting Phage in the red zone. Key to the City to make a creature unblockable, and also early game it's a pretty nice way of just kind of using some extra mana to draw some extra cards. Kind of filter out your hand a little bit. Oh, come here. Brotherhood Regalia. This card has a very cheap equip cost for Phage and also gives her unblockable and almost hexproof, like half hexproof with ward 2. Alright, so we have all the stuff we're talking about Phage getting in there, like getting in the red zone a lot, but how does she even get in the board in the first place? We got 10 different ways to get her out. We already saw one of them in Command Beacon. But another one is Netherborn Altar. This lets you put your command zone or commander from the command zone in your hand for 3 life, and then 6 life, and then 9 life. So hopefully I don't use this more than like once. The Golden Throne is a mana rock, lets you sack creatures to add 3 mana, but also says if you would lose the game, you instead exile the throne and go to 1. So that's how you can dodge Phage. Torpor Orb just turns off enter the battlefield abilities, and Phage's lose the game triggers an enter the battlefield ability. So this is the most efficient way to get Phage out, but it is also the riskiest because, or I guess they're all pretty risky, but unless they put Phage in your hand, because they can blow this up in response to you casting Phage, and then you just fall into a pit, lose the game. Campfire lets you put all your commanders into your hand from the command zone, and you get to shuffle your library and your graveyard together. Residually gains you life too in the early game, which is kind of nice. Helps set up for the big life spending turns. Perhaps the most flashy and expensive way to get Phage out is to have another 7 drop out, Platinum Angel. Platinum Angel is also just kind of fun because if you do spend all your life and you are just kind of backed into a corner, you can just kind of hide behind it for a minute until they decide to blow it up. Stunning Reversal, one of my favorite ways to utilize Phage, is kind of like a big swingy combo. If you would lose the game the next time, instead you go to 1 and you draw 7 cards. So sometimes those extra 7 cards really push you over the edge. Vorpal Sword isn't necessarily a way to get Phage out, but kind of spiritually, I guess. You can pay 8 mana to give the equipped creature Phage text. Whenever they hit someone, that player loses the game. And then we have a couple funnier combos. So obviously the number one easiest way to win with Phage is to just deal combat damage to somebody. But sometimes you can weaponize the first line of text on her when she comes into play and wasn't cast from the hand. So Assault Suit is a double duty card in this deck. It lets me put it on Phage and then pass her around so people can start killing each other with her, swinging around and getting the turn. But it also puts Phage on their side of the battlefield, at which point we can saw her in half, destroy target creature, and then they make 2 copies of that creature. So I give them 2 Phages and then they lose the game twice. Also, Saw in Half is just like really good with like Gary and Solemn. Like, just it's a good utility card sometimes too. But I usually use it to just kill people with Phage. And then the last card, Endless Whispers. Each creature that dies gets to go to an opponent of that creature's controller's choice at the end of turn. This lets me sacrifice Phage and then give her to somebody at the end of turn, which does get rid of her back to the command zone, and then I go start all over. But sometimes people are running decks that deter attacking altogether, so we do have to get creative and find some other ways to use Phage to kill them. Alright, that was the Phage list. One of my favorite decks for sure that I've ever had. Maybe I'll post the other ones, the other 3, over time. They're all just as pretty and pimped out as this deck was. Or maybe I won't. Who knows? Hope you enjoyed Phage the Untouchable, and rest in peace, Ron Spears.